Bringing you the latest news from around the world and here at home, I'm Sandru Ferdinando.
And I'm Azra Hassan. Now, before we head into our stories in detail, let's now take a look at the headlines.
Supreme Court determines public referendum required to pass 20th Amendment. Draft bill on changes to provincial council election system tabled in Parliament. Opposition claims chairman of COPE was pressurized to prevent the leak of information on the highway scam.
Newsfirst Shami Rasuldin reports from New York, USA on today's activities in the UN General Assembly.
President Maithripala Sirisena was among the many heads of states who attended the United Nations Political Reform High-Level event at the Economic and Social Council ahead of today's general debates of the 72nd sessions of the United Nations General Assembly. The United States, the biggest UN contributor, providing 22% of its $5.4 billion core budget and 28.5% of its $7.3 billion peacekeeping budget, highlighted its concerns and the need to urgently reform the United Nations.
Yet in recent years, the United Nations has not reached its full potential because of bureaucracy and mismanagement. While the United Nations on a regular budget has increased by 140% and its staff has more than doubled since 2000, we are not seeing the results in line with this investment. But I know that under the Secretary General, that's changing, and it's changing fast, and we've seen it. That's why we commend the Secretary General and his call for the United Nations to focus more on people and less on bureaucracy.
Pledging to overhaul the United Nations bureaucracy to make the world body stronger and more responsive to the people it serves, Secretary General Antonio Guterres launched a pledge of support for reforms that has the backing of 128 nations. What does President Trump's statement mean to the subcontinent, including Sri Lanka?
President Trump's statement today in front of the committee suggests that South Asia, Sri Lanka, among many, will see better United Nations operations, better responsiveness from the UN to meet the needs of the local country, but also better accountability.
President Sirisena arrived at the UN headquarters to attend the general debates of the UN General Assembly at 8:30 a.m. New York time and will hold a bilateral meeting with Pakistan Prime Minister Shahid Abbasi and attend a lunch hosted by the UN Secretary General later on in the day. Focusing on people striving for peace and a decent life for all on a sustainable planet was the theme for the 72nd sessions of the United Nations General Assembly, which began a short while ago at the UN headquarters in New York. President Maithripala Sirisena attended the event a short while ago and would address the UN General Assembly tomorrow at 4 a.m. Sri Lankan time. Incidentally, Sri Lanka will be on the spotlight this time around as well, as far as its human rights record during the final stages of the conflict is concerned. Now, among the notable absentees this time around at the United Nations General Assembly are Vladimir Putin, the Russian president, Xi Jinping, the Chinese president, Angela Merkel, the German chancellor, as well as Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Now, Newsfirst, of course, will keep our viewers fully up to date on all the developments that will unfold. I am Shami Rasuldin reporting for Newsfirst from the UN headquarters in New York, USA.
The Supreme Court has determined that certain clauses of the 20th Amendment to the Constitution, which proposes to hold the provincial council election in one day, should be passed through a public referendum. Also today, the amended draft of the Provincial Councils Election Act, which proposed to change the provincial council election system, was tabled in Parliament today. Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe informed the chambers today that measures are being taken to hold the local government election in January next year.
I wish to announce to the House that I have received the determination of the Supreme Court in respect of the bill titled 20th Amendment to the Constitution, which has been challenged in the Supreme Court in terms of Article 121(1) of the Constitution. The majority of the court has determined that clauses 2, 3 and 4 of the bill is inconsistent with Articles 3, 4, 12(1) and 14(1) of the Constitution, and under Article 83, the bill shall become law if the number of votes cast in favour thereof amounts to not less than 2/3 of the whole number of members, including those not present, approved by the people at a referendum, and a certificate is endorsed thereon by the President in accordance with Article 80. I order that the determination of the Supreme Court be printed in the official report of today's proceedings.
Last week, I met all party leaders where the upcoming local government election was discussed and said that it should be held soon. It was everyone's view that it would be appropriate to hold it in January in a way it wouldn't cause any obstruction to the budget reading in November, the ordinary level examination in December and Christmas celebrations. That opinion has now been presented to the chairman of the Elections Commission. If these people are not going to contest from the Sri Lanka Freedom Party or the United People's Freedom Alliance, come January, there won't be anyone here to work. If he is removed from the party, he won't be able to shout here.
They say the local government election will be held in January. There are 3 provincial councils which will dissolve in October. So the Elections Commissioner said the elections can be held on the 9th of December after they are dissolved. We would like to know if this would happen.
When the Elections Commission informs us of a period to hold election, we will select a date, because according to what we have all agreed, the final reading of the budget will be held on the 9th of December. So we will have to decide if we are to hold the election before or after the budget. But I did not decide on this date. After the Elections Commission tells me what to do, next week I can convene all the party leaders at the next parliamentary week and ask them what needs to be done.
Though they say the local government elections will be held in January, it is essential that the Urban Council's Ordinance, Municipal Council's Ordinance, Pradesh Sabha Act and the Gazette notification on establishing Pradesh Sabhas and Urban Councils are passed in this Parliament. But a day to discuss the drafts on these acts have not been decided on in this Parliament.
Everything will be dissolved on the 27th, so there can be no election. As a government, we are ready for any election. You do not have a party or a proper leader. Everyone is split into 2. The Supreme Court has issued its determination and we will hold the election according to the country's law.
Has this been tabled in provincial councils to be approved? Yes or no? Now he just said it is not relevant. If he said it is not relevant, what can I do?
Parliamentarian Arundhika Fernando, who was removed from the post of Deputy Minister, took up a seat with the opposition in Parliament today.
The brother of Sagala Ratnayaka was appointed as the chairman of the Sri Lanka Development Authority. During this time, I wasn't invited for any events. At a time when statements were being made overseas that the tourism industry in the country should be developed for the future of this country, when large sums of money were flowing into the ministry, when a large amount of taxpayer rupees was being added to the ministry, not a single cent was used for its development. The Ministry of Finance would intervene and acquire all that money. The government was destroyed, not by the backbench MP of the United National Party or by the other factions of the government, but by the Colombo-centric elite in the government. At a time when the bond scam caused major losses to the country, while corruption was taking place, when students were taking to the street due to the escalation of the SITEM issue that could have been easily resolved, we saw the frustration increase in the people. After we were insulted at the first government meeting, we did not attend these meetings again. After we highlighted that the government as well as the country is heading towards destruction, it resulted in my ministerial portfolio being removed. Honourable Speaker, I make a decision that from today I will join the opposition and continue my fight until this government is overturned. I will sit in the opposition from today.
A program aimed at collecting funds for the suspects found guilty in the silk cloth case was held in Kiribati today.
Buddhist monks toured across the town to collect funds. A group of MPs from the joint opposition also participated in the program. However, on a previous occasion, a court order has been issued prohibiting politicians from participating in such programs as it exerted undue pressure on the general public. A group attempted to offer food to the Buddhist monks who were touring the Kiribati town collecting money.
They are defying the teaching of Lord Buddha by engaging in Pindapata at this hour of the day. And also nowhere in history was money ever offered to Buddhist monks who engaged in Pindapata.
The program to collect money continued amidst this heated situation. Journalists raised questions on this program at a media briefing conducted by the joint opposition today.
It is the Honourable Sangha that are conducting the program. We, as the joint opposition, only support it. The Venerable Monk in charge of the accounts is handling the accounts. There were some issues in opening an account, but I believe an account has been opened.
ඇත්තටම මේ ඇපීල් එකක් තියෙද්දි මේ විදිහට මුදල් එකතු කරන්න පුළුවන්. ඒක හාමුදුරුවන්ගේ තීරණයක්නේ. අපි දන්නවා බොහෝ මන්ත්‍රීවරු ඒකට සම්බන්ධයක් තිබුණා අතරම ඔබතුමාලා මේ සම්බන්ධයෙන් ඉස්සලා වීතුංග මහත්තයාගේ පවුලින් සහ මේ කටිපන්ත පවුලින් අපද මේ සල්ලි අවශ්‍යතාවය තියෙනවා.
Yes, Mrs. Veeratunga and Mrs. Palpita very clearly stated to the joint opposition and its leadership that they cannot even imagine paying a sum like 104 million rupees.
සමහර පාර්ලිමේන්තු මන්ත්‍රීවරුන්ගේම මුදල් දුන්නා කියලා අපිට දැනගන්න හම්බුණා. ඔබතුමාත් මුදල් දුන්නා?
I have a lot of details to reveal on the money I am donating, but I can't speak about it here.
මේක මේ වස් කාලේ මේ වස් කාලේදී ඇත්තට මේ වගේ මුදලක් එකතු කරන්න මේ විදිහට පිටපාතේ යාමට හැකියාවක් තියෙනවා. ඒක හාමුදුරුවන්ගෙන් තමයි අහන්න ඕනේ.
The opposition accused the government in Parliament today of interfering with the chairman of the Committee on Public Enterprises or COPE in the investigations on expressways. These allegations were raised during a debate which followed a point of privilege raised by UMP parliamentarian Professor Ashu Marasinghe.
Chairman of COPE, Sunil Adunetti, is publishing newspaper articles revealing what measures are to be implemented concerning this matter. COPE does not have the right to come to an early conclusion.
Shouldn't the allegations and doubts of the public regarding the construction of expressways be discussed with COPE? Are you suggesting that they be allowed to continue the fraud and corruption in the construction of highways and for COPE to discuss the matter once they are done? Are you asking us to conduct murder investigations?
We got down the Auditor General and spoke about this, so give me the chance to focus on this and take the required measures.
They are trying hard to protect the thieves and their theft using their deputy ministerial and ministerial portfolios and their position of National List MP. They have obtained doctorates on thievery. MPs should work towards uncovering theft. This MP is trying to protect and cover them up.
This is the first time in history where the engineer's estimate was exceeded by 8% for the second phase of the Central Expressway and by 9% for the third phase. There were instances where it exceeded by 32%.
We have no objections for the observations of the Auditor General to be presented and for questions to be raised based on those observations. But what we oppose is that the chairman of COPE has declared certain people as the accused before reaching a judgment.
Today the COPE is to convene the RDA, so I do not think it is suitable for the subject minister of the RDA to present facts against it.
At a time when the Bond Commission is conducting investigations, a minister of the ruling party is convened and told not to speak about it. Similarly, the chairman of COPE is being influenced. Even this morning, the chairman of COPE was convened and told not to speak about this. I have the documents with me. The issues surrounding the Central Expressway is quite severe. How can the subject minister secretly convene the chairman of COPE to his office and influence him? If such is the case, what is the decision of the parliament? Now it was said it was exceeded by 8% and back then it exceeded by 20%, so that 8% is also wrong.
Minister Kiriel showed me the paper article this morning and told me about it. Then I called the chairman, the secretary and then the Auditor General and arrived at an agreement. So let's move on from that now.
The RDA has been convened to speak about the events surrounding the Southern Expressway from 2013 to 2016. MP Alut Gamage is assuming that there are allegations and that we are blaming the Commission and are trying to halt them. So there are several allegations regarding your government as well. Look into it if you want to. We only ask that it is not publicized in the newspaper.
Honorable Prime Minister, you are the Prime Minister of this Parliament, so please speak with respect to that position because I said no such thing. What I said was, if the 20% back then was wrong, it is wrong to exceed by 8% now as well. So why is it being done now? Is this good governance?
The strike action launched by the employees of the Ceylon Electricity Board entered its 7th day today. Talks held between the trade union representatives and the subject minister last night concluded without reaching an agreement. Convener of the CEB Joint Trade Unions Alliance, Ranjan Jailal, said the strike action will continue until they receive a solution in writing for their demands. 10 proposals were presented to the chairman of the CEB with the signature of the Commissioner General of Labour. The proposals included a change in the salary scales and a 13% salary increment for employees of all grades. There is a practical difficulty in implementing certain proposals put forward by the Joint Trade Union of the CEB. We hope that the Board of Directors of the CEB would pay attention to this situation and report on the actions that are being taken. Chairman of the CEB Technological Engineers and Superintendent Union Ajit Munasinghe said they too joined the trade union action as of midnight yesterday. Convener of the CEB Joint Trade Unions Alliance, Ranjan Jailal, said arbitrary attempts made by the CEB Engineers Union to increase their salaries are unfair. Demonstrations were staged against CEB employees by the general public who are facing power outages owing to the strike. A demonstration was staged for close to 5.5 hours today in the Diabaduma area along the Giritale-Bakamuna main road. Residents of Diabaduma and surrounding villages staged the demonstration from 10 this morning, citing that they have been severely inconvenienced owing to the breakdown of power for the past 3 days.
Delays in implementing plans to meet the increasing demand for electricity amid strike actions by the employees of the CEB has given rise to a number of issues. Problems have arisen with the tender process to award the 300 megawatt combined cycle power plant in Keravalapitia. The Laktanau company had offered the lowest price per unit at the third round of tender evaluations that began yesterday. However, the 5 companies that were considered yesterday had not even submitted the tender for the initial equipment required to activate the power plant with liquefied natural gas. This has been clearly stated in the report submitted by the Technical Evaluations Committee. The Samsung company who did submit the tender for the initial equipment requirement was rejected. This international tender was rejected because certain facts were presented on a CD. A number of parties have raised questions regarding the tender submitted by the Laktanau company, of which the Ceylon Electricity Board owns a majority of shares. How can the officials of the Ceylon Electricity Board subject to a technical evaluation a tender submitted by one of its own subsidiary companies? Is this not a conflict of interest? Another allegation leveled against this process is that numerous attempts were made to sabotage the tender procedure. Were these actions an attempt to award the tender to the Laktanau company? We state that we are not representing the Samsung company. However, they are the only company to have submitted the minimum facilities. The general public are well aware of the individuals who set aside the greater good of the public in pursuit of personal gains. It would be foolish for one to think that the public are unaware of the situation and embark on an attempt to deceive them. We are ready to continuously expose details on this process to acquire a more beneficial tender for the general public of the country.
Former Governor of the Central Bank, Arjuna Mahendran, testified before the Presidential Commission of Inquiry for the first time today. Zulfi Farzan reports on Bongate.
The evidence of Arjuna Mahendran was led by his attorney, President's Counsel Ramesh De Silva. According to Mahendran, the government had a requirement of 13.5 billion rupees by the 2nd of March 2015, 172 billion rupees to be raised for the month of March, and 75 billion rupees to be raised in a month for urgent road development projects. The 75 billion rupees relates to a meeting held at the Central Bank on the 26th of February 2015 between the Governor, the former Finance Minister, the former Minister of Highways, the advisor to the Prime Minister and few others. When questioned on the letter produced by Mahendran in relation to the 75 billion rupee requirement, he said he made a request for the letter in June 2016 as he needed to prove the meeting had taken place and the requirement to cope. During the week that led to the controversial bond auction, Mahendran had discussed with the Public Debt Department how the 13.5 billion rupees would be raised. The Superintendent of Public Debt had told him advertising a higher amount would convey to the markets the government was borrowing aggressively and the interest rates would be high. Therefore, the PDD advertised to raise 1 billion rupees at the controversial bond auction. Mahendran testified that he visited the Public Debt Department twice on the 27th of February 2015 during and after the auction. He said he had visited the floor during the auction to inquire into the auction results. However, as the superintendent had informed him the results would only be available in an hour, he made a second visit after 12 noon. Mahendran had inspected the bid sheet and asked the PDD to accept the rupees 20 billion in bids that were placed. However, as the SPD noted there were dummy bids as well, he suggested 10.058 billion rupees was a reasonable amount to accept. He went on to testify the tender board makes the final decision in accepting the bids, and after they send him their decision, he only approves it. Arjuna Mahendran said the loss calculation by the Auditor General on the bond issue are wrong as they are based on assumptions and there is no factual basis for the allegations. He went on to say he was only aware of the EPF purchase and sales of bonds in the secondary market by looking at the EPF monthly reports sent to him. He said he was not aware of any dealings the EPF had with Perpetual Treasuries Limited, and it was only after he left office he got to know the profits made by PTL. The marriage between Mahendran's daughter and Arjun Aloysius in 2012 was attended by Mr. and Mrs. Ranil Wickramasinghe, Ravi Karunanayake, Sajith Premadasa, Chandika Bandaranayake Kumaratunga, the three sons of former President Mahinda Rajapaksa, and many others. It was suggested at the Commission that even before Arjuna Mahendran assumed office as governor, the Colombo elite were aware that Mahendran's daughter was married to PTL's Arjun Aloysius. Testifying for the first time before the Presidential Commission of Inquiry, the former governor of the Central Bank Arjuna Mahendran said that he never discussed central bank official matters or treasury bond or treasury bill matters or any other related official matter with his son-in-law Arjun Aloysius, his daughter, or even with any other member of his family. He emphasized that he does not hold any shares in any Sri Lankan company. Additional Solicitor General Yasantha Kodagoda today said a considerable amount of data relating to a period of 11 months are missing from the two mobile phones handed over by Arjuna Mahendran to the Commission. He said the period coincides with the period under investigation. The Commission has sought an explanation on the matter.
The recording of evidence from the Chief Executive Officer of Perpetual Treasuries Limited concluded today. For more news from this, we cross over to Zulfiq Farzan.
Another previously deleted phone conversation recording recovered from the PTL phone recording system was played at the Commission today. In the conversation dated the 1st of February 2016 between Kasun Palisena and Arjun Aloysius, it is noted that PTL had found a new individual to bring down rates relating to the 2026 bond. The new person is referred to as New Charlie in addition to Little Johnny in this telephone conversation. The Attorney General's department said PTL was using Little Johnny and New Charlie to manipulate the market. In the conversation, Palisena mentioned a phrase, Little Johnny's guy, in Narayanpeta. The Attorney General's department said the only government institution that deals in securities in Narayanpeta is the Employees Trust Fund, and Little Johnny is in fact Saman Kumara, the dealer in the EPF. From the phone call that was played today, it was evident before the Presidential Commission of Inquiry that Arjun Aloysius and Kasun Palisena had colluded to bring down the rates of the 2026 Treasury bond, along with two individuals only known by their nicknames as New Charlie and Little Johnny. Deputy Solicitor General Milinda Gunatilaka suggested that Arjun Aloysius and Kasun Palisena colluded to influence the Employees Trust Fund. Kasun Palisena went on to say he did not instruct anyone to delete calls from the PTL call recording system. However, Deputy Solicitor General Milinda Gunatilaka said Kasun Palisena was lying to the Presidential Commission.
Speaking at a media briefing in Colombo today, leader of the National Unity Alliance, Azad Saleh, recalled a statement made by former Chief Justice Sarath Silva during the run-up to the 2015 presidential election.
Sarath Silva came before the people and said he is ashamed for protecting a thief. He said this person was responsible for the Helping Hambantota project and asked for forgiveness from the people. After issuing that verdict, he imposed a fine of 100,000 rupees on Kabir Hashim. He admitted that he was the one who saved him and that he should have put him in jail. He says clearly he protected a thief. So this is where the country's judiciary has gone to. So the judges now must re-examine this case. Why isn't Kabir Hashim, who was fined, not appealing this case? Why isn't the UMP doing it? What is the deal that has been reached? If the case is open again, Sarath Silva goes to jail because he admits the mistake. And Mahinda Rajapaksa also admits that he is the thief behind the silk cloth incident. It is our view that the cases should be filed against both of them.
Minister Sajith Premadasa, speaking in an event held in Tissamarama, expressed reasons for former President Mahinda Rajapaksa's defeat at the last election.
Namal Rajapaksa says that it is of no use electing the son of a farmer into power. I wish to state to MP Namal that it is them who ruined their father because they did not act in a manner befitting a son of a president. The public should know that if Mahinda comes back into power, it is Namal and Basil who will ruin him again. Mahinda Rajapaksa had to face this situation not because of anyone else, but because of members of his family.
The Seva Pesa building in Jayagama, Tisamaharama, which was constructed incurring a cost of 2 million rupees, was declared open by Minister Sajith Premadasa. Today it was announced that the price of a kilogram of domestic rice and coconut has exceeded 10 rupees mark. Following the news, tonight's BizFirst in Focus looks at how much tax makes up the cost of food. In sports news now, Indranil Herath kept the hopes of medal alive for Sri Lanka as he breezed through to the finals of the 800 meters men's track event of the 5th Asian Games in Ashgabat, Turkmenistan.
Another day of the 5th Asian Indo Games here in Ashgabat, Turkmenistan came to a close. A number of Sri Lankan athletes were featured on today's games as well. Here are some of the highlights. It was a beautiful 23 degrees Celsius morning on day 3 of the Indo-Asian Games at the Olympic City here in Ashgabat, Turkmenistan today. Indranil Herath, Himasha Heshan, Vidusha Lakmani were the 3 athletes who went head-to-head at the Games today. Indranil Herath, one of Sri Lanka's favourites, breezed through to the finals of the 800 metres event, clocking in a time of 1 minute and 50 seconds. Herath will head into the finals on the 20th of this month. On the downside, Vidusha Lakshani, who competed in the triple jump finals, fell short of victory as she was pushed to the 7th position of the points table at the triple jumps event. Himasha Heshan, who competed in the semi-finals of the 60 metres, also fell short of victory of qualifying to the final. finals. And tomorrow, on day 4 of the Indo Games here in Ashgabat, Turkmenistan, we will find out whether Sri Lanka's Gayantika Abeyaratne will clinch a medal at the women's 800-meter finals. Reporting for News First from Ashgabat, Turkmenistan, this is Stephanie Lazarus.
And that wraps up the news for tonight, but do join us again tomorrow with the very latest. I'm Sandro Ferdinando.
And I'm Azra Hassan. Take care and good night.